Okay. نمشي؟ الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So today inshallah we'll be resuming or restarting what the book Al-Mulakis Al-Fiqhi by Sheikh Salih Fawzan Hafidullah Ta'ala. So we have covered so far the chapter that relates to ibadat, which would be the first chapter, and now we're discussing matters, the second chapter that discuss matter regarding buyu, which we have covered all that chapter. Also matter that relates to an-nikah or ahkam al-usra, matter that relates to family life. And now inshallah ta'ala we'll be discussing, which is the final main chapter, matter that relates to al-hudud wal-qisas. So inshallah ta'ala we'll be picking up from where we had stopped in the last lesson. We start discussing ahkam al-qatl wa anwa'i, which is the different type of killing and the different ahkam that relates to, or some of the ahkam that relates to this inshallah ta'ala. So we start from where we had stopped and take it from there bi'awnillahi ta'ala. Tafaddal.
بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله قال مؤلف حفظه الله. Chapter number 1, page number 518, title Murder and its types. Premeditated murder. It is the type of murder in which one intentionally kills a human being while being aware that his blood is invaluable by attacking him with something fatal. This definition involves that the case is not regarded as premeditated unless the following conditions are met.
So they mentioned regarding concerning that al-qatl amd, premeditated killing, which the intentional killing, that the ulama mentioned regarding concerning that in this case, where the rules regarding qisas is applied. So in the cases of a person who kills someone intentionally, then this is when al-qisas would be applied. So that will be discussed in the next chapter regarding the rulings regarding al-qisas. Aywa.
Number 1, having the intention of killing. Number 2, being previously aware of the invaluability of the victim's blood as a human being. Number 3, the weapon or the tool used is a fatal one, whether it is specified for killing or not. Therefore,
so those are the three conditions, or some of the conditions they mentioned, which is those three conditions that have to be looked into, or the person who have done this killing, that to be considered to be a killing of qatl al-amd, that these three conditions that they are met. So wujud al-qasd, so I mentioned a person have to have that intention to come to take that person's life, which is to take the person's life. Then I mentioned the second condition, أن يعلم أن الشخص الذي قصد قتله آدمي معصوم الدم. Then the second condition, the person that is that a person have killed, that person is someone who is a human being, and also is blood is ma'soom, a person who should not be killed. So dam and ma'soom are those people that you are not allowed to kill. And the third condition, an akuna al-ala, that the weapon that is used is that weapon that ordinarily when used, it will bring about death. Aywa.
Therefore, if one of these conditions is not present, the case will not be regarded as premeditated murder. This is because the absence of intention does not obligate qisas, legal retribution, and the occurrence of death with something that is not supposed to be fatal indicates that death may have been due to something else, as scholars agreed. According to the induction, there are 9 forms of premeditated murder.
So different types of, they mention al-qatl amd, that it fall into 9 categories. Aywa.
Number 1, the murderer wounds a person with something sharp or bodily penetrating, such as a knife, a spike, or the like.
A sword or the likes. Aywa.
In this regard, Al-Muwaffaq said,
Who's Muwaffaq? Ibn Qudama. So the author, those who have authored this book, that they are Hanabila. So in most cases that the sources that they use as reference that are Hanbali. So Muwaffaq amongst the ulama of the Hanabila. Aywa.
As far as we know, there is no juristic disagreement among scholars on this ruling, i.e., killing using such tools is deemed premeditated murder. Number 2, The murderer kills a person with something heavy, such as a stone or the like. Therefore, if the stone, for example, is small, the case will not be regarded as premeditated murder unless it is intentionally aimed at a vital spot of the body. Similarly, if it will be regarded as premeditated murder if such a small stone that usually does not cause death is used while the victim is in a state of weakness, illness, youngness, oldness, coldness, hotness, and the like. The same applies when the murderer repeats the action of beating the victim with such a small stone or the like until he dies. This is also similar to the case when a person kills another by letting a wall fall on him, hitting him with a car, or throwing him from a high place.
Aywa. So that's the second of those conditions. So that also will concern the object that is used regarding that you mentioned, muthaqqal, that's something which is said to be a large object, and large object that will bring about death, or as he mentioned that in some cases a smaller object but is used repeatedly. So a person may hit a person with a stone and he repeatedly does so, then that also will change the circumstance. Aywa. And also he had regarding things, the author, Hafidullah, regarding things of said in the contemporary times, he mentioned that use of a car. So a use of a car that also would be considered to be one which is fatal. Aywa.
Number 3, the murderer throws a person to a deadly animal, such as a lion or a serpent. Thus, if one intentionally throws another to such deadly creatures, the case is deemed premeditated murder, for such creatures are generally known to be killers.
Aywa.
Number 4, the murderer throws a person into fire or deep water, which may cause him to drown while the victim cannot escape from them.
Aywa.
Number 5, the murderer strangles a person with a rope or the like, or stifles him to death.
So they noted that most of these acts that have been mentioned are things that in most cases that will bring about death. That in these cases it will bring about the person's death. Aywa. So in some of the cases that the person who he actually did the act himself, but he's the one who may have caused bring about that person's death by throwing the person in push the person into water or throwing off or the likes. Then the person he become responsible. So he's considered to be the killer. Aywa.
Number 6, the murderer imprisons the victim and deprives him of food and drink until he dies, being imprisoned for a period in which anyone is supposed to die out of hunger and thirst if they do not find food or water. So
the imprisonment of a person is locked away. The person is somewhat so imprisonment here, concerning mentioned habs, where the person is locked away and also is not provided things of food nor drink, and the person eventually he dies of starvation. Then in those cases, aywa,
such a case is considered premeditated murder. Number 7, the murderer knowingly uses sorcery or black magic that often causes death to the victim.
Aywa. So it shows regarding concerning no matter regarding things of sihr also is included in this category.
Number 8, the murderer knowingly makes the victim drink poison or cunningly mixes it with the victim's food while the latter is unaware.
So we know regarding that regarding concerning sihr, that in Islam is considered to be something which is haram. So sihr in all cases is considered to be haram, and for a person, as they mentioned concerning the person to use sihr to bring about the death of another person, then this also, so both those acts are haram. Sihr and also using it to bring about the death of another person, then this also is haram. A discussion between some ulama, but qawl da'if, that undoing sihr bi sihr. So a person have caused a spell upon another person by way of sihr. Can a person undo this by way of a sihr? So undoing sihr bi sihr. The ulama Jamaykee, the ulama, it is not allowed. So the person cannot use sihr to undo sihr done by another. Aywa.
Number 9, someone witnesses falsely testify against someone, causing the latter to be sentenced to death, as in cases like adultery, apostasy, or premeditated murder, whose penalty in Islam is capital punishment. Such witnesses are regarded as murderers as they intentionally kill an innocent person. So if they renege on their testimony or if their plot is disclosed, they are to be sentenced to death as well.
أيوة.
Further.
And so those are the 9 reasons that they mention concerning of those factors that will consider to be, as they mentioned, qatl amd. So of those 9 cases are considered to be a form of qatl al-amd. So for a judge, when he looks at the case, will see concerning, does this type of murder was committed or act that was committed, does it fall into one of these categories of the things for the judge to take into consideration. Aywa.
Quasi-premeditated murder.
So the second that I mentioned, shibl hamd, that we mentioned regarding concern the ulama, amongst them, that of the ulama who have categorized the type of al-qatl into 3 categories. And that's what the author here is following this method, that taking of a life, it falls into 3 types. Qatl amd, that's the first that had been discussed. Then I mentioned shibl hamd, which is like, what they put it in English as? Quasi. So like to be discussed. And then you have the third, which is qatl khata'an, which is done by way of unintentionally. So of those who categorize it into 3 categories, and this is what the author here is following that pattern. So it's the second category.
Quasi-premeditated murder. According to the faqihs, quasi-premeditated murder occurs when someone kills another with the intention of causing him harm or injury, not death. Such a case is regarded as quasi-premeditated murder, whether the murderer's purpose is aggression or mere disciplinary punishment, as the offender exceeds the limits in doing so until it results in death. It is called quasi-premeditated murder as the perpetrator just intends harm or injury, but he unintentionally kills the victim.
So that's the difference between al-amd wa shibl amd. So that's the difference between amd wa shibl amd. So in shibl amd, the person did not intend, he intends to harm the person, but did not intend to kill the person. And for al-amd, the person he intends to, they mention that in the amd, the person, whether his intention was to kill, the fact that he has used one of these methods, then it's considered to be amd. So his intention may not to be that he wants to harm the person, but he used the method that was used regarding concern that he shot the person, used a gun, or he threw the person off a very high building. So all of these automatically is considered to be amd, where the person regardless of the person's intention, regardless of the person's intention. Aywa.
In this connection, Ibn al-Rushd said, as for the one who intends harm to another person and strikes him with something generally non-fatal, the ruling wavers between intentional and unintentional killing. It is similar to premeditated murder as the perpetrator intentionally beats the victim, and it is similar to manslaughter as he beats him with something that is generally not intended to cause death. Among the examples of quasi...
So they mentioned that Ibn Rushd rahimahullah, in his famous book is called Bidayat al-Mujtahid. So Ibn Rushd rahimahullah, his famous book Bidayat al-Mujtahid, Ibn Rushd more so Maliki, they mention most of the information, but Ibn Rushd rahimahullah, that he will mention in his book that they mentioned that fiqh al-muqarin, but he mainly mentioned 3 madhahib, not the 4. Which are the 3 that he mentioned primarily? Ibn Rushd in his book, and this book is used like in certain university as the book for fiqh, the chosen book, or the book that is selected for fiqh, because it gives the madhahib 3 more so than a 4th.
Hanbali, definitely.
Okay, you say Hanbali, definitely. So the other 2?
Hanafi.
Okay, so starting with you, so the 3 madhahib.
I would say Hanbali, Hanafi, and Shafi'i.
Okay, but he's Maliki, so I forget.
The one that didn't go for
Sorry?
Maliki, Hanbali, Shafi'i.
Oh, that's okay. Anyone else?
Don't ask Jailani, he's not that us.
Okay, so make it quick. So Ibn Rushd rahimahullah, that some of the ulama of the Malikiyah, that amongst them, they said, I took a lot of information from Ibn Abdul Barr. So of those ulama, Ibn Abdul Barr and some of the Malikiyah of Handulus and the likes, that they see concerning the 3 madhahib that they mainly discuss, that they discussed are Hanafi, Maliki, and Shafi'i. As for the Hanabila, they all concern Ahmad ibn Hanbal is not from the fuqaha. So of those who hold Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he is not amongst the fuqaha, he is a muhaddith, not of the fuqaha that according to that particular view. So you find Ibn Abdul Barr that have that view, and also we have Ibn Rushd. So you find some of the Maliki kind of stuff they see as the main schools of thought, Madhahib al-Faqihah, are those three: Hanafi, Maliki, and Shafi. We're good? So said that some of the ulama that they don't per se see that Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah as being one of the fuqaha, but more so is a muhaddith. He's more so a scholar of hadith, not of the fuqaha.
Even in Saudi, yeah?
Now said that even said that after said that what has been established now is that the four madhahib are those four: Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi, and the Hanabila. Now, or said now of some of the ulama who may take that view that of the expert concerned that the older scholars that Ahmed rahimahullah is a muhaddith, not per se a faqih. Now, most of the established practice now or understanding is that all four are considered. For example, so if I like Shaykh Albani rahimahullah, I might find that some may say he's a muhaddith, not a faqih. Even though he has many views on different things, but some are more inclined that he's a muhaddith, less so of a faqih. Now, so it's something you have that those discussion between some.
Among the examples of quasi-premeditated murder is the case in which one strikes a person in a non-vital bodily spot with a whip or small stick. Another example is the case when one punches another with the hand in a non-fatal spot, but it results in the latter's death. Such cases are regarded as quasi-premeditated murder that obligates expiation taken from the perpetrator's money. The expiation...
So in that case concerned, it's not kafara. So kafara, and to be discussed in those cases, so it wouldn't go to qisas. So in a shibul hamd, that it wouldn't go to sort of punishment for the person who have done the crime, that it would not be that the person would be, that was a death punishment. Now, so in the case of shibul hamd, it will be more so kafara, a form of expiation would be done in that particular case, which as you mentioned, what are some of those cases? Example, Aywa.
The expiation for quasi-premeditated murder is emancipating a slave. If the perpetrator does not have a slave or cannot afford to buy one to emancipate, he must perform fasting for 2 consecutive months, just like the case of manslaughter. In addition, binding diya, blood money, is to be paid by the murderer's agnant relatives. To illustrate, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrated, 2 women from the tribe of Hudayl fought with each other, and one of them hit the other with a stone that killed both her and the fetus she carries. The killer's agnant relatives and those of the victim submitted their case to the Prophet ﷺ, who judged that the diya for the murdered woman was to be paid by the murderer's agnant relatives. Related by Al-Bukhari and Muslim.
Bukhari Muslim, muttafaqun alayh. That's concerning the case concerning shibul hamd, that in those cases, then they mentioned kafara will be done. It varies so it could be that in those cases, a freeing or emancipating of a slave, or if not possible, then the person will fast. So different things that are mentioned. Aywa.
Hence, the aforementioned hadith shows that qiyas, legal retribution, is not obligatory in the case of quasi-premeditated murder. It also indicates that the diya is to be paid from the wealth of the murderer's agnant relatives. Since it is considered a murder that does not obligate qisas, the diya is to be paid by the murderer's relatives, just like the case of manslaughter.
So that's concerned. So it said a diya will be paid instead. So a diya, which is that something will be given, not per se the person's life. So in the case of quasi murder or killing, then where the person didn't intend to kill the person, but he struck the person or used something that ordinarily would not bring about that, but in this case caused the person to die. So they mentioned a person that you're fighting someone, you hit someone, you punch someone, and ordinarily the person wouldn't die, but in this case they died. Now, so in that case, then it will consider to be a partial murder, not a manslaughter. But so the person's life would not go to qisas, so it will go to a diya. Aywa.
In this regard, Ibn al-Mundhir said, all Muslim scholars unanimously agree that the diya for quasi-premeditated murder is to be paid by the murderer's agnant relatives. In addition, Al-Muwaffaq said, we know no juristic disagreement on the ruling that the diya for quasi-premeditated murder is to be paid by the murderer's agnant relatives.
So I mentioned regarding concern of the ulama, also the proof regarding concern that this matter, that of the evidence that is used is al-ijma. So al-ijma, consensus between the ulama regarding that this is the punishment or what to be those who are to pay. That I mentioned Ibn Mundhir of those who have a book in ijma. So Ibn Mundhir, he has a book in ijma, and also he mentioned al-Muwaffaq was Ibn Qudama of the Hanabila, where like these are some of the main sources that are mentioned in relation to or in regards to matters of al-ijma. So Ibn Mundhir, because he has a book on that particular topic, a discussion regarding that. Ibn Mundhir rahimahullah, when he mentioned ijma, does he mean in most cases concerned that so in most cases this is called maybe the majority of the ulama to what he knows, but referred to as but considered to be an ijma. And also Ibn Qudam in his book al-Mughni, but he will use a different way of expression. We mentioned la na'lam khilafan annaha, or la na'lam khilaf, that we do not know of a difference. So his way of Ibn Qudam of way of expressing ijma, he would say we do not know of a difference between the ulama. Aywa. So as I mentioned before concerning at times that in reading the books of the fuqaha and any of the books of the ulama is knowing their language, knowing the language and their terminologies. Aywa.
The same opinion was adopted by other scholars as well. Manslaughter. According to faqirs, may Allah have mercy on them, manslaughter occurs when someone kills an inviolable human being by mistake while doing something permissible for him to do, such as shooting or hunting. The same applies when a Muslim kills a fellow Muslim in a battle, thinking he is one of the disbelievers. The rule
As I showed that the person killed someone accidentally. It was accidental. Aywa, not intended at all, or something else was intended, but instead someone else died from this. Aywa.
The ruling on the intentional murder committed by a child or an insane person is the same as that of manslaughter. This is because the condition of the intention is lacking in the case of such persons due to their lack of mental maturity or soundness.
Inshallah, and in Qisas, they will discuss more regarding concerning that in the case concerning of Qisas regarding that a person said to be majnoon, insane, and also a child. What's out there if they were to kill someone intentionally? What would be the ruling? So it kind of somewhat highlighted their case will be taken as that of the person who have killed someone unintentionally. So their case would be, even though they may be an adult who is a person who's majnoon, because he lose the faculty of sanity, then the case will be tried differently. Just as also a child, if they were to kill someone, that their case will be tried differently. But there's a form of punishment for them. There's something to be done, but as suitable for both those cases and to be discussed further. Aywa.
Thus, the premeditated murder of a minor or an insane is regarded as manslaughter of a legally countable person. Likewise, the ruling on killing due to being a causative factor is the same as that of manslaughter. For example, when one digs a well or a hole on a road or a street and another falls therein and dies, or when one stops a car on the road or a street and one crashes against it and dies, the ruling in such cases is the same as that of manslaughter. The expiation of manslaughter is obligatory to be taken from
the law. Regarding that case, I think we have discussed that before, regarding if a person was to, as I mentioned, that dig a hole in the way that is all known, that the pathway that is used by the people, and someone died from this, then he's responsible. Not per se that is counted concerned with amdan, but there's a form of kafara in such a killing. أيوة. Or debt.
The expiation for it is the emancipation of a believing slave. And if one does not have one or cannot afford to buy one to emancipate, then he should perform fasting for 2 consecutive months instead. Moreover, the diyah for manslaughter is obligatory to be paid by the perpetrator's male agonant relatives. Therefore, if a Muslim kills a Muslim mistakenly in a war believing that he is one of the disbelievers, there will be nothing obligatory on him except for the expiation. Allah exalted be, He says, and whoever kills a believer by mistake, then the freeing of a believing slave and a compensation payment diyah presented to his, i.e. the deceased family, is required, unless they give up their rights as a charity. But if he, the deceased, was from a people at war with you, and he was a believer, then only the freeing of a believing slave, and if he was from a people with whom you have a treaty, then a compensation payment presented to his family, and the freeing of a believing slave. And whoever does not find one or cannot afford to buy one, then instead a fasting for 2 months consecutively, seeking acceptance of repentance from Allah, and Allah is ever knowing and wise. Surah An-Nisa, ayat 92.
Inshallah, we stop here, inshallah, and continue next week. What's today's, the 7th?
Yeah.
We'll stop here, inshallah, and continue next week. So said regarding concern the compensation, regarding that for the person I've done, we have to do kafara in a case of killing. Then they mentioned regarding concern that, that freeing of a slave or emancipating of a slave. And then they mentioned the second thing is what? So the fasting of consecutive months, we mentioned that before. In we have mentioned regarding concern that when a person starts, he cannot stop. So that be consecutive from the and for him to stop, it has to be for a valid reason. Then he continues. But the person wants to stop without a valid reason, then he has to start the entire cycle again. We have discussed the same thing as so that's concerned the same thing as in these cases like these. So that inshallah will break for today and continue next week. Wabillahi ta'ala tawfiq. Because I have to leave exactly, but because I see a visitor.